Papergirl by Melinda Mccracken and Penelope Jackson. Narrated by Marsha Mason. This is a Fernwood Publishing audiobook. Forward. I was young when my mother wrote Papergirl, and I didn't think to ask her exactly why she wrote this story. She passed some 16 years ago now, so there's no way to know for sure. Her life and times, however, contain some clues. A creative person, Melinda received a music scholarship to go to university, graduated with an English degree, and went to England to study as a visual artist. While there, she wrote a bi-weekly column for the Winnipeg Free Press entitled Melinda Mccracken's Letters from England. In one, she described a new popular musical act, the Beatles, to those back home. Her formative years were spent in Montreal and Toronto in the counterculture 1960s, when many young people questioned the establishment values of their parents, the war in Vietnam, and the problems of capitalism and patriarchy. Melinda was one of the voices of this new generation of hippies. She wrote about music and the arts and from a women's lib perspective. She became a mother in the early 1970s and returned to Winnipeg several years later. Seeing Winnipeg with new eyes and counterculture thought, I imagine she became interested in a major event in her hometown's history, the 1919 Winnipeg General Strike. She decided to write a fictional feminist story set during this pivotal event in local and international history. As a mother of a young girl, she wrote the story for children like me, her daughter. I remember her writing Papergirl on her typewriter in the early 1980s, both in the little red house by the water at the Lake of the Woods and in the basement of our house in Riverview. She and my grandmother talked about what it was like to live in the early 20th century. Ice delivered by horse for the icebox, and the joys of homemade biscuits. And they also discussed the hardships many experienced during the strike. Melinda's story was completed, but never published. The manuscript was dug out of the archives and is being published to help celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Winnipeg General Strike. Through the eyes of Cassie, we experience the risk and promise of working people's collective struggle for a better future. A huge thank you to Penelope Jackson for editing and enhancing the story. It is improved thanks to your thoughtful contributions. Thank you to Dennis Lewicki, Jim Naylor, and Doug Smith for providing historical accuracy. Thank you, Brock Brown, for creating a teacher's guide. Thank you to the University of Manitoba Archives and Special Collections for housing Melinda Mccracken's fawns. Thank you to Wayne Anthony and Roseway Publishing for bringing this story for all to read. Melinda would have been proud to be part of the events acknowledging the 100th anniversary of the strike and people's enduring struggle for justice, peace, and freedom. Molly Mccracken. Chapter 1. Tuesday, May 6, 1919. It had been a long, hard winter, and though the snow had been gone almost 2 weeks now, you could still see the occasional dirty patch in shady corners. The sun was finally warm on Cassie's face, but the ground was still brown and bare, and there were no leaves on the trees. Cassie always marked the change between winter and spring by the sound of horses' hooves. In the winter, they went squeak, squeak, and the harnesses jingled with bells. But when spring came, the bells were put away, and the hooves made a clean clop-clop sound. There was clopping coming from nearby Portage Street. "Look, Mary!" exclaimed Cassie. Her best friend looked to where Cassie was pointing. "Crocuses! That's our 4th patch this spring. They're so late this year," Mary said. The girls always kept count of the signs of spring together. "Better late than never," said Cassie, "and I definitely thought it might be never this year." The girls opened the wooden gate at the Hopkins family house, a small frame house on Langside Street in Winnipeg. Langside ran all the way from near the river to Notre Dame Avenue, but Cassie lived on the part that was just off Portage Avenue, the main street where all the department stores, banks, and office buildings were. Cassie's house was squashed fairly tightly against the house next to it, where elderly Mrs. Watson lived with her equally old tomcat, Rodney. The front porch of Cassie's house took up most of the front yard, and the shed took up most of the back.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?